So me and my co-founder, we actually met 11 years ago at this point. We were in the same freshman dorm at Stanford, and we quickly became very close, played a bunch of poker, ping pong. We've been good friends for a long, long time. Within Stanford, we were at the same AI research lab, and then we kind of went our separate ways. My co-founder Bradley was at Tesla. He was working on the big computer vision models for autopilot early on, and I was at Google. I was doing applied machine learning, and then we both bounced around a bit. I was at Neuro doing other self-driving car stuff. Bradley was at Absci doing AI for drug discovery, and then 2023 GPT-4 came out, and we're like, okay, this is like obviously ChatGPT was huge, but we weren't sure if it's like just a fad or if it's really, really useful. And then GPT-4 was a huge step function change. We're like, okay, this is like going to be really impactful on society. And so, how can we make sure this powerful technology makes a positive impact on society? So that's sort of where we started our ideation and how we came up with detectability as a problem space that's interesting to us.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the How I Raised It podcast, the show where you get an inside look at how real entrepreneurs and VCs raise capital for their businesses. I'm your host, Nathan Beckard, and today's episode is with Max Spero of Pangram, an AI detector tool. We talk about the challenges of AI in the classroom when it comes to plagiarism and tips for how to use AI the right way to generate good content. And then Max shares his journey raising $4 million from Semil Shaw of Haystack and Kevin O'Connor. If you're tuning into this podcast to learn how to raise capital for your business, be sure to check out Foundersuite.com if you're a startup or FundingStack.com if you're a VC or advisor. Both platforms will give you access to an awesome collection of tools for raising capital, including a massive investor database, a new Get Intro tool to help you get warm intros to investors, a CRM to manage your raise, a virtual data room to run due diligence, plus pitch deck hosting, investor updates, email tools, and much more. Last but not least, if you enjoy this conversation and think someone else would too, please share it with them and hit that subscribe button to get all our latest episodes. Thank you. Now sit back and enjoy this chat with Max.
Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com and FundingStack.com. Today I have Max Spero of Pangram coming to us from Brooklyn. How's your day going?
Hey, it's pretty good. How about you?
Very good, very good. Well, let's just jump right to it. What is Pangram?
Yeah, so Pangram, we're building the most accurate AI detection models. So we will tell you if some piece of text was generated by ChatGPT or whether it was written by a real human. And so we sell this technology through our API to internet platforms, but we also provide it as a dashboard and sort of service to teachers, universities, and like other educational institutions.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So as a pretty obvious example, a teacher might use this to feed it essays that their students have written, and you're able to say this one's real, this one's AI generated, right? I mean, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're able to help kind of curb AI cheating and set guardrails on how AI is used in the classroom.
You know, you hear this topic come up a lot, especially as we're heading back to school. I dropped my kids off first day of middle school and first day of high school today. Very exciting day. But you hear this come up all the time, right? Like, how do you prevent kids from cheating or using AI to do their work? Or should you even prevent it, right? It's almost more philosophical question of, should we be preventing them from using AI to write their essays, or should we teach them how to do it better? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's foolish to pretend AI doesn't exist or to put a blanket ban on AI. But I think what we're seeing a lot of is people want to incorporate AI into their classroom and into their coursework, but they also want to set guardrails on how AI is used. They don't want to say, like, for example, if we're doing like an essay on symbolism in Moby Dick, we don't want the student to just copy paste the assignment prompt into ChatGPT, get an essay, paste that back in to a Word doc, and then submit that. Like that, the student's not learning. Nobody really benefits from this. But what student does benefit from is being able to interrogate AI and like talk about the material and try to understand a bit better, use AI as more of like a personal tutor and like a personalized tool. And I think that's where it's very effective. And so we need to set these guardrails so that we know when students are just way over relying on AI versus when they're able to use it effectively.
And what are you seeing as a good, and this is an evolving thing, right? Like it'll play out over years, I'm sure, but like what are you seeing as a happy medium? I mean, that's one example you just gave, but like what are you seeing as almost like the ideal sort of balance between purely, hey, read the book, write an essay, versus
Mhm.
on the other spectrum, use AI to give us a synopsis of this book or an analysis of the book. What's in the middle, right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is just like, okay, there's this concept that I've learned in class, but like I have some questions about it, right? Like obviously asking the teacher is the best, but like second best is asking AI and trying to just get like a more personalized explanation. You don't have to feel like you're bothering anybody because ChatGPT is just always going to respond to you. And at most levels of schooling, AI is like going to be good enough and give you reasonable results. Probably not until like deeper university level classes where you might need to double check your understanding with a textbook.
Yeah.
But I think we're also seeing a lot of just like, hey, while we're in this period of uncertainty, if you're not sure, just ask. We're seeing like teachers who have disclosure forms being like, okay, this is how I used AI. And here's a link to my chats. And, if the teacher feels like, hey, this was like stepping over a line, then they have this discussion with the student rather than going straight into like cheating mode.
Yeah, right. Interesting. I mean, it's tough because you want kids to learn how to think for themselves.
Mhm.
Yet, I feel like we need to teach kids how to use AI and stay on top of AI and recognize hallucinations and things like that, right? So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I think like students definitely use AI. Like AI has over 80, probably beyond 90 at this point, percent adoption among students. So I think there's like no fear that a student's going to come out of college not knowing what AI is or how to use it. Like I think they're very good at that. Um, but I also think it's like, yes, learning how to use AI effectively. You will be expected to use AI in your job, but also I think you might cause some problems if you say like, hey, I made this whole report myself, and then it was actually just ChatGPT generated.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting. We'll see how this plays out. It's an exciting one. So that's one scenario,
Mhm.
teachers using this to catch kids over reliant on it. What are some other scenarios for your product? Like where else does this fit in the world?
Yeah, so I think the other ones is just like on the internet at large. So there's a term called AI slop, and that's when people say this, they mean unwanted AI content. So this is often like somebody else uses AI to produce content and then posts it as their own. So we see this a lot in the review space. There's fake review brokers, so I could buy like 50 five-star reviews for my business for like Yelp or Google or something else. And oftentimes now they all use generative AI to make like really good comprehensive reviews that are not at all authentic. And so that's a really big one. We also see other internet platforms like Quora, Reddit, Medium, Substack. They all have AI problems, and we help some of them deal with deal with this AI, understand like how their users are using AI, and which ones of those users are using it fraudulently versus legitimately.
What this is, we're getting into some weird gray areas, right? Like if I use an existing article or maybe a Wikipedia article or something about a startup related topic, but then I use ChatGPT to kind of summarize and revise that. Is that okay or is that cheating? If I'm using kind of derivative works, I mean, I don't know. Where's the line here?
Yeah. So for a case like Quora, they're
Mhm.
one of our biggest customers. We run a bunch of their user-generated content through Pangram. But they explicitly have a policy, hey, like don't use like no AI answers.
Hmm.
So they have people who post questions, and then experts or people with personal experience can respond with answers. But they saw after ChatGPT, they're just getting flooded with AI answers, and then oftentimes like this person is trying to also promote their own product or brand or something as well. And they're
Right.
just using AI to be able to get the volume out there, to post hundreds or thousands of answers a day. And that's where it starts getting to the point where it's a problem. Like it's okay if there's a power user who's posting 20, 30, or even 100 answers in one day, maybe, if they're doing it themselves. But if it's AI, then like it's low quality and no one really wants to see that. They could just ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, completely. I read an article recently about Medium, and it was written by the current CEO. Is I forget the exact title. It was basically like Medium. We fell in a hole, got out, and it was kind of talking about how the quality on Medium got really bad, and for that exact reason, right? People were just using AI to pump out quantity that wasn't very good, and so assuming Medium and Substack and these others are, do they have a no AI policy, or is it?
Um,
Yeah,
no, actually, so interestingly, Substack just they polled their users, how many of them are using AI. It's about like 50% of them,
yeah,
of their writers. Um, but I think among them, there's a wide range where some people use it for edits or ideation or brainstorming. And I think the things that they need to be wary of is the people who are fully generating all of their articles with AI. Um, Medium's an interesting one. I got into kind of a fight with their CEO
oh, did you?
because we ran this study and we found like over 50% of new Medium articles were AI generated. Just like we were just crawling like their feed of new articles. And then so we're like, this is crazy. Tried to get in contact with Medium, like, hey, we can help you out. Just no response, stonewalled. And so like, okay, maybe we should do something with this data. So we went to Wired. Um, they ended up publishing this big piece that AI slop is flooding Medium. Over 50% of their articles are AI. And then, yeah, then um, their CEO was very unhappy with that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Maybe understandably, but like also, I think they have a real problem and they're kind of like in denial about the problem. It's just all like AI crypto scams and like AI self promotion.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me, I'm older than you. You look pretty young, but maybe a decade and a half ago when
Mm-hmm.
there were those content farms creating just, I think it was written by humans, probably in India and Pakistan or something, creating just tons of content, or especially like health topics and things like that were full of, you know, clickbaity links and things like that. And it was all to game the SEO world. It's just this chunky
Absolutely.
content, right? It feels like that a little bit in some ways.
Yeah, so it's like that, except you could generate 10,000 times as much content
Right.
for literal like dollars, like barely any money. It is so cheap to produce content with AI. It's not going to be great content, but like that's the problem. It's like now the question is more of what is worth reading, what is worth paying attention to, rather than just like what content is out there.
Okay, we're gonna bounce around a little bit, but what are your suggestions for using AI to generate great, authentic content? You mentioned editing, right? I write something, use AI to edit it, tighten it up a little bit, or idea generation. Like, what are you seeing almost best practices for using AI to generate good, authentic content? Go.
So I've seen a pretty interesting workflow, which I've been trying to use myself for blog posts where I do use AI. So I'm not just saying like, hey, AI, generate this blog post for me. But instead what I do is I will record myself just like talking for half an hour about a topic. And then I'll ask AI, hey, can you help organize this into coherent sections? And then pull direct quotes from me and like and obviously like clean it up into blog post ish format and then it gives me a skeleton that I can then work on. I can expand on myself, or I can use often AI for research. I think that's one of the big ones that I do is I'll use deep research. If I want stats or I want a graph, it's very time consuming to like find primary sources, but deep research does a really great job at finding these primary resources for me that I can then double check, get these numbers, and then include in my blog posts, for example. And so I think like that's a great way of using AI to save time without producing something completely inauthentic. Like it's still my own voice, it's still my own ideas, and we're using AI to reorganize them and format them in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah, super interesting. Do you use AI for the idea generation piece too, or do you just kind of already have ideas and you verbalize it all and let AI organize that stuff.
I don't really like I've tried it for sure. I was just like, I've given it our like 20 blog posts I've done in the past. Hey, can you generate some more? But I found it's just like pretty derivative and like nothing really interesting or exciting to me. I think like what's exciting to me has to come from inside. And I think
Yeah.
that's how I'm able to produce good content.
Yeah, totally. I like it. What is the backstory? You guys were at Google, at Tesla. Tell me about how you came up with this idea and go back a little bit. What were you doing before this? And then how'd you come up with the idea?
Cool. Yeah. So me and my co-founder, we actually met um 11 years ago at this point. We were in the same freshman dorm at Stanford. So and we quickly became very close, played a bunch of poker, ping pong. We've been good friends for a long time. Within Stanford, we were at the same AI research lab, and then we kind of went our separate ways. Uh, my co-founder Bradley was at Tesla. He was working on the big computer vision models for autopilot early on, and I was at Google. I was doing applied machine learning, um, and then we both bounced around a bit. I was at Neuro doing other self-driving car stuff. Bradley was at Absci doing AI for drug discovery, and then 2023 GPT-4 came out, and we're like, okay, this is like obviously ChatGPT was huge, but we weren't sure if it's like just a fad or if it's really useful. And then GPT-4 was a huge step function change. We're like, okay, this is like going to be really impactful on society. And so, how can we make sure this powerful technology makes a positive impact on society? So that's sort of where we started our ideation and how we came up with detectability as a problem space that's interesting to us. So we started working in this space for a bit. First, like we weren't entirely sure how possible the problem is, right? It's difficult. Um, but we trained our first couple models. We found it was able to do pretty well on college admission essays.
Mm.
And then I had a buddy at Yelp who was like, "Hey, there's some AI generated reviews on Yelp too, and we're like not really sure how to catch these." And so then we're like, "Okay, maybe we should try incorporating in our um, i- internet reviews into our data set." And then we found we were able to do much better on Yelp reviews, but then also this increased our performance on college essays as well. So then we're like, okay, that was kind of our breakthrough, was realizing that building a broader, more general model actually just like increases performance across the board. So from there, then we set out to build a very broad, um, much much larger model that understands like emails, blog posts, scientific articles, kind of just like across the board. What can AI produce and how is it different than human writing? And that was how we were able to put together the best AI detection model out there. And obviously, we've been iterating a lot over the last 2 years to improve our detection of the latest models like GPT-5, et cetera, and also to keep our false positive rate low. So
Mm.
false positives are when you incorrectly flag human writing as AI. And so our false positive rate is 1 in 10,000, which is multiple orders of magnitude lower than any other provider out there. Yeah, and this has just been like a lot of hard work on the research side, but I think it's yeah, a lot of it was just I think we're lucky to have the right background and have this background training large machine learning models, so we're able to apply that here.
I mean, that's almost a dream, dream scenario of like, all right, we meet in freshman dorm, Stanford, go our separate ways, Tesla, Google, get some great experience, come back to start this startup. That's like, if you could script this out as a young high school student, like that's you couldn't ask for a better like path to be an
Yeah,
entrepreneur,
I
right?
recommend everybody else follow this path
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Easy hack for becoming a successful entrepreneur. Just do that. No, that's interesting. And so how, okay, without getting too technical, how does it actually do it? I mean, I'm thinking like pre-AI, teachers would go, if they were suspicious about a student's essay, they would maybe select a chunk of text and Google search that chunk of text and find that in some other essay online or something, right? That's how they were catching people. I know that's not what you're doing. How are you guys actually doing it without getting too deep into the weeds? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're training large machine learning models. So in a sense, they're kind of black box. They're kind of like large language models like ChatGPT that you see, where it's just you train on a whole bunch of internet data. Except for us, instead of training on And for large language models like ChatGPT, the task is next token prediction. So it says, hey, like if it's like, hi, my name is, and then it predicts like what the next token is. So like that's how you get an assistant that is useful and able to generate text. And then for us, instead of next token prediction, our task is classification. So we're going to read in an input text, and then we're going to spit out this is AI generated or this is human generated. And so we have tens of millions of examples of human writing, and then we have AI create similar documents. We call it synthetic mirrors. And so, for example, I have a 500-word essay on Moby Dick written by an eighth grader. Then I ask GPT-5, hey, write a 500-word essay on Moby Dick in the style of an eighth grader. And then our model is able to compare and contrast these two documents and understand what the difference is between them.
So I know I'm kind of like oversimplifying a lot of really sophisticated stuff, but it's finding or identifying patterns of what a human written essay on that topic is versus what an AI is. Is it sort of pattern and
Yeah,
yeah.
it does a lot of pattern recognition, and a lot of like, yeah, I think like one thing you could see is just like AI definitely overuses certain words and phrases. And obviously, like our model doesn't over index on these specific words or phrases, but it is able to, um, yeah, find these patterns and the like subtle nuances and the decisions that AI makes more consistently than humans. And it's able to pull all of these out and stack them out to until it gets like a pretty confident decision one way or another.
Yeah, interesting. How about on the review sites? What are the sort of patterns it's identifying there to
Oh yeah, on the review site, it's definitely lit. Like, I recently had the pleasure of like visiting so and so
Mm,
restaurant, nestled in the heart of Brooklyn. It's um, yeah, this Italian restaurant is great. And then it talks about like how from the moment I walked in, I could tell like the ambience was beautiful. And it just like uses all of these like fluffy adjectives,
mm,
and like overuses these cliches without actually like cutting to the core of the experience because the AI didn't actually have this experience. So it needs to overcompensate with this like these fluff and these adjectives. Same thing with Amazon reviews. It talks about like how this product is a game changer. It'll often have like bullet point lists, which seem to kind of just be copied from like the marketing material. And then it's like, I highly recommend so and so product for anybody who wants it. And I think you could tell like they're long and they're probably like overly detailed.
interesting. So I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, a lot of posts about entrepreneurship and raising capital on LinkedIn, and I'm starting to see commenters, like the first few comments, I'm like, this feels a little too scripted, or it's like it's off.
The
It's just
comments are
off a
like
little bit.
so long. They're like asking you about like the worst is when there's AI generated comments on LinkedIn that ask you something. It's a follow
Mm,
up. They're like, what did like how did you feel about this or how do you find this? And that's like so frustrating to me because it's like clearly this person is putting in zero effort into their comment, but they're also asking for more effort from
yeah,
you.
right. Yeah. Oh man. So is this an arms race? Like you're building tools to catch cheaters and catch, people. And then are the other side of the coin, the people selling fake reviews, getting better at avoiding the detection systems? Is this like a cat and mouse game?
Definitely to some degree. I
Yeah.
think we're still in very early stages here. Um, I think like right now, most review platforms still haven't implemented any sort of AI detection. And most fake review providers are just using like really vanilla ChatGPT prompts. But I'm sure we will see things escalate. But I think, we're still in the early stages and it's just like any other cybersecurity company where um, like yes, they are
Yeah.
constantly fighting against the hackers and the zero-day vulnerabilities. And but somebody has to do it well because otherwise the people trying to exploit the system are going to get away with it.
Yeah, totally understood. Has ChatGPT 5.0 changed things for you? Are they giving better fake answers or fake reports or fake reviews or anything?
GPT-5 is pretty interesting because most of the other AI detectors online do a pretty poor job of detecting GPT-5 outputs.
Hmm.
So Pangram, we did some early analysis. We find we get about 99.8% of GPT-5 outputs, which is pretty good. So we're able to catch most stuff that comes out of GPT-5. But I think it has helped us in a sense continue to differentiate from the pack, because there's a lot of companies that claim they could do this to different degrees of accuracy, and they might have been okay at catching like the old free versions of ChatGPT, but now that GPT-5 is standard, like it's good. It is harder to catch for many of these companies.
Interesting. Bit of a weird question here, but like I can totally get the use case, teachers catching cheaters, fake reviews, all that stuff. Are you able to detect when are you able to detect hallucinations? And my thought here is like maybe I've got a content site with medical and health stuff. I don't want to be putting out incorrect answers. I don't want to be putting out hallucinations, but I still want to use AI to help generate content. Like, can you identify like when AI driven content is wrong? Is that a use case?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting use case, but genuinely, I think this problem is as difficult as just teaching AI to not hallucinate in the first place. Like having a true source of truth is very difficult. Um, like obviously we have Wikipedia, we have like great internet knowledge sources, but we don't have all of the knowledge in the world codified into like a trustworthy database. So I think this is a really important problem, and I'm sure somebody is going to solve it very well.
Yeah. Interesting. I noticed like I was on a webinar about how to, kind of like how to do SEO, but how to do SEO so that your sites are recognized by the LLMs and stuff like that. And part of it was, coming back to like primary research being this sort of source of truth, foundational truth, if you want to call it that. There's probably a better name. But like, yeah, is that something you think about much? Like, how do you kind of become the authoritative voice on things? And that
Yeah,
has to be, yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. Like, so obviously SEO is important for every company, but also for us. Like when somebody searches AI detector, we usually come up near the bottom of page one or page two of search results for AI detector, just because there's a lot of people out there. Some of them invest a lot more in SEO. But when you ask ChatGPT what is the best AI detector, it starts looking for different resources online. So it goes to like these best AI detector, like Tom's Hardware list or like New York Post best AI detector. But it also sometimes surfaces our original research, which we've posted to Archive, which is a site for computer science research. And so it finds that, and then it goes down this rabbit hole, finds us, and then recommends Pangram as an accurate solution. It doesn't do this all the time, but when it does, I think it's very impressive and pretty cool. So I think there's a ton of value now in putting out more primary sources, putting out more research, and just being like more of an authoritative source. Like I genuinely think if I put out like the floodgates of content, I put out 10,000 blog posts on how great Pangram is, that doesn't really matter to AI as much as one really strong source.
What's the definition of a really strong source? Like, what is the definition of that authoritative source or voice? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's different for different domains, but like for us, I think like having this in like research format is really helpful because AI parses this and understands like this is rigorous, this has been peer reviewed, this has been like published in a conference, and that's like very helpful in a way that like yeah, uh, Google is a bit different still because Google counts links. So if I have like 1,000 backlinks, then that's really valuable to Google. ChatGPT doesn't see any of that. It's evaluating it more in the same way that a human would.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool stuff. I could ask you a lot more questions. Well, here I'll leave with one more, and then I want to get into the fundraising for a few minutes. But
Oh, for sure.
like, where do you see this going? Like what's if you were fast forwarding a couple years, what does your business look like? Because it's going so fast. Like do you have any sort of crystal
Mhm.
ball or almost like prognostications of kind of where the AI is going, but how you're helping solve stuff? Where are we in 3 years?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think the big one for us is understanding the difference between AI edits and fully AI generation. Like yeah, it's like, oh, this was AI assisted. This like I co-wrote with AI. And it was like me and ChatGPT collaborating closely versus this was just a single prompt. And I think like understanding this and being able to provide better transparency around this is how we're really going to um, become very useful in the market. Also, just like yeah, the nature of writing is changing. If we say any AI use is bad or detectable, then that's very quickly going to just be useless as like more and more people incorporate AI into their workflows. So I think it really important for us is understanding this like yeah, the greater question of like how much human input was put into this final piece of content.
Do you think, and it's kind of almost ironic in a way, but like, we're talking about like SEO in terms of showing up in when users are searching for something in ChatGPT or other LLMs. Do you think there would be a day where the LLMs reward content that is 100% human generated? Like, is that gonna
Oh,
be a thing?
human
Yeah.
generated?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Uh-huh.
I think so. I mean, I think right now it's kind of the opposite of like if you ask ChatGPT to grade essays, then it's going to prefer the writing style of ChatGPT written essays, which is kind of problematic. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of like incorporating different signals to understand the trustworthiness of content. And I think like how original and human written it was is going to be really important in the future. So
Yeah. Super
I think
interesting.
like likely we're going to have agents that could make tool calls to Pangram to kind of understand trustworthiness.
Yeah. Super interesting. Okay, let's get into the fundraising because that is part of this show, even though I could ask a million more questions about. Um, so you and your co-founder, you get the band back together, so to speak, and decide we're going to launch this startup. Did you
Mhm.
did you do it on the side while you're still working at Google, or did you guys quit and like we're going all in? And did you bootstrap it to begin with, or go straight to raising money?
Yeah, we quit. We went all in. We were bootstrapping for a while. I think we both put in around 30K into the company to start, just enough to like get Gmail set up, get like GPUs so we could start training our models, train our early models. Oh yeah, and then also like we were using all of the startup credits on like free ChatGPT
Yeah.
API credits, free Claude API credits, etc. Um, it wasn't until after we published our first technical report. This was probably about, and then like maybe 6 months after we started, that we started looking to raise some funds. I think we wanted to hire somebody, like a front end engineer, so I didn't have to keep doing that myself. Um, and that was not too bad, honestly. We had already gotten like some just like random inbound from VCs on LinkedIn. Like there's always um I'm sure they have their flows set up so they look for um like former like ex
Yeah.
Stanford people who like now have founder in their bio and then they just like reach out. So we had like kind of a short list. Um, we ended up talking with Haystack. So Samil Shah, legendary, like really great. Definitely like liked them the best. And ended up getting a term sheet for them for our pre-seed raise, and that went really smooth. That was really nice. I was actually like boarding a boarding a plane to Singapore. Um, I already had this family trip planned from before we decided to do the startup, and then it just happened to be like right in the middle of fundraising. So I was like, okay, no problem. I'm boarding the plane, and then I get a call from Samil. He's like, hey, we want to give you guys a term sheet. We'll give you guys basically what you want money wise. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. And then we had to just like yeah, and then I took my 24-hour flight to Singapore. It's kind of off the grid, and then had to just like close up our conversations with all our other investors. But we went with Haystack because they're great.
That's awesome. And that was this 4 million seed round, or is that
Yeah, so
something before?
that was pre-seed. That
Okay.
was about 1 million. That was in March of 2024. Um, and then so we were operating on that. We hired a couple engineers, and then early 2025, we're like, okay, we should like let's raise some more money, so we could like hire designers, just like yeah, and basically keep going. And so this second raise was pretty interesting. Definitely more difficult than the first in that like they people didn't want to just bet on like the background of the founders anymore. Like we needed to kind of show that we had traction. So ended up Haystack was super helpful. They had like a spreadsheet of people they could make introductions to, and then they also worked with us on our deck. I think like a lot of the challenge was sort of proving out, just like doing math on our TAM, like what is the total addressable market of AI detection? Because I think that's like a really big question mark for a lot of people. They don't know, is it $0? Is it 100 million? Is it 20 billion? And so we just had to kind of like napkin math it out. And then beyond that, I think there were a lot of questions on risks of like, are you going to be able to keep up with GPT-5 and new frontier models as they come out? Is this problem going to become impossible eventually? And so a
That's
lot of our
interesting.
slides were also around that. Um, like I think the answer is no. And I think some investors took our word for it. Some investors talked with all their friends at OpenAI and like major AI research labs and came to different conclusions themselves. Um, but in the end, we ended up meeting ScOP VC. So the founder of ScOP is Kevin O'Connor. He founded DoubleClick, the big ads company that got bought by Google. Kevin, but also all the partners at ScOP are super sharp, really smart people. Um, they they offered to invest 2 million in Pangram, and yeah, I thought it was a great deal. So they led our seed, and then we got like a number of others who followed on, and yeah, that was kind of the short version of how we raised our seed round.
Yeah, ScOP is like SCOP.
ScOP, correct.
SCOP. Okay, scalable opportunities is what that stands for. ScOP. Okay, I
Yeah,
never heard of them before. That's
yeah,
interesting.
they're kind of unconventional. They're based in Santa Barbara, um, and they're relatively new, but yeah, they've been super helpful, very hands-on, and yeah, really just like great to work with.
That's interesting. So going back to the pre-seed for a minute with Haystack and Sunil Shah, did they find you or did you find them? Kind of because you're absolutely right. Something you said a few minutes ago. A lot of VCs are extremely, building data-driven pipelines now. They're doing exactly what you said.
Mhm.
They're scanning LinkedIn. They're finding Stanford founders that now, their end date at Google is last month or whatever. And so they're like, okay, let's put this on a radar, and they're tracking people. It's pretty interesting how VCs are now becoming data driven to fill their own pipeline of startups. So anyway, back to the question. Did
Yeah,
Haystack find you or
I'm
did you find
actually
them?
with so we found them. This was a little bit of a convoluted one. So somebody was like, we met Renee, I think Renee Shaw from Amplify Partners. She was posting on Twitter about how like, deepfake detection is going to be a big problem. I'd love to talk to founders in this space who are working on this. So then we just reached out and connected with her. She was really good, but and liked us a lot. Was a little bit worried that we like overlapped with one of our other portfolio companies because they were also operating in like the fake review space. So then she connected us with Samil, and then yeah,
That's
then
a
we
great
had the
do that.
conversation with Samil and
Yeah.
Ashay, and uh, and that was really great.
Yeah. And then in the second round, did you, was it mostly inbound investors, or did you ever go out and, hey, we're going to build a list of, top 50 investors that do AI tools or ops tools? And, did you run any kind of process, or was it kind of handling inbound stuff and intros from previous investors?
I think inbound and intros. I think
Yeah.
like intros are definitely the strongest way to connect to an investor. Um, I think I've just heard this. I guess we haven't tried too much, but just like cold outreach generally just gets ignored. Um, but yeah, getting a warm intro, especially from somebody that the investors trust, is just so powerful. So we used Haystack and a lot of their connections. We met a bunch of other VCs through that. I have a couple other founder friends who were able to introduce me to their VCs or VCs that they were close to. Yeah, and then as well as the inbound from just like basically like every investor who kind of cold emails or connects on LinkedIn, I just add them to a list and a
Yeah.
spreadsheet, and then
Yeah.
just reach out to everyone at once.
So ScOP VC took 2 million and then you filled out the rest of the round with a bunch of others or what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the rest of the round, um, it was Script Capital, Cadenza, um, and Angels.
What were your criteria for picking and choosing which investors to let into the round?
Yeah. I basically it was just honestly people we vibed with, people who like seemed sharp, who believed in the mission and like believed in what we're doing. I think that was most important for us. I know there's a lot of advice out there about like thinking about what your investors can do for you. But genuinely like we're also balancing this with like getting back to building. I think like
Yeah, right.
you can spend a ton of time being really picky about your investors, but it's at the cost of a month or more of just working on the product. And I think we're at such a critical time. Um, Plus, we had so many great investors who wanted to invest that we just went with whoever could A, move fast, and B, we felt like was a great fit on the like just yeah, how they're thinking about the future.
Totally. I mean, a lot of AI startups are, have had crazy funding rounds where tons of investors are clamoring to get into the deal, and it's like this feeding frenzy, right? Did you did you get
Mhm.
any of that vibe? I mean, I don't know where you are at on the spectrum, right? I mean, obviously, yeah. Talk about it
Yeah,
from being
I mean,
in the center of the hurricane as an AI company, right? Yeah.
I will be pretty honest. Like, I think we got a lot of interest. Like, we had very few people who just said, no, we don't want to meet at all. But we also did get a lot of skepticism around, is this going to be like a tractable problem that becomes $1 billion business? Right? It's not so clear cut that like, for example, like the cognition folks, where they're just like, we're building something that's going to replace a software engineer. Of course, this is going to be $1 trillion market if they can make it
Right.
work. For us, I think there was skepticism around this, so we got a lot of people who were like tentatively interested, but not like clamoring to be the lead. Um, and so that's why we were really looking for people who believed in the mission. There's also a lot of people who believe like, hey, like the era of writing is over. Like everybody's going to have AI write their emails and AI produce their thoughts for them. And I just like fundamentally disagreed with like this perspective of the world. So like these are kind of people that I don't necessarily want to work with.
That makes sense too. If you can do it in a short answer, I like that something you mentioned, like there was some skepticism about whether this problem in the future can even be solved, right? As
Mhm.
the models get better and better, are they going to become undetectable, I guess is maybe their concern there. What's your sort of short answer to that?
Yeah, so I think that we're going to reach AGI. Well, right, we're going to have AI that can perform as well as a human cognitively and like at least on the internet with language. And I think this is going to happen in not too long. But I think when this happens, we're going to have one or two or five AGIs, like maybe GPT-6 or 7, Claude 6, etc. Um, but I think like in the end, it's a single voice. And what we could do, like we we're basically doing authorship detection. So our problem space is very similar to looking at a single author and understanding how they write, and then looking at a piece of text and guessing which author wrote it. Except for us, we have more or less infinite writing samples from the author because the author is GPT-5. So I think like the issue of authorship detection is still going to be doable, even if we have multiple AGIs running around. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that AI does not just produce writing along the same distribution as human outputs. So it's not like it's going to get better and better at mimicking the human writing distribution. Instead, it's spiky. It's like it's very good at being an assistant and being good at math and writing in its particular style, but it doesn't do anything outside of that spike.
Interesting, interesting. Do you see yourself getting into like broader fake identification, deep fakes, and things like that more on other types of content besides writing, or do you think writing is your wheelhouse? You're going to master that, stick to that.
I think long term, I would like to see us get into deepfake detection for audio, image, video. I think our current approach is going to is going to translate very well into these domains. But I think in the short and medium term, we have the best AI detection model, so it's our job to sell it and get it out there and make sure it's used, and that's that's my highest priority.
Yeah, totally. Good. Cool. This is super interesting. If people want to learn more, it's pangram.com. Is there anything you want to plug or promote, or it could be anything at all to folks listening?
Cool, yeah. I mean, it's AI detection that works. I think a lot of people didn't don't think it exists or don't think it's possible, but if you try Pangram, it might change your mind. I'm on Twitter. I post max_Spero underscore. Yeah, or try out Pangram, pangram.com.
Very cool. Yeah, I noticed on the website or on your homepage, you can enter text to check for AI. It's funny. I've got people that write stuff for me sometimes. I'm going to play around with this a little bit.
Oh yeah, try it
Not
out.
much
See
of
if there's
their-
anything you're suspicious of. It's free to try, by the way.
Yeah,
It's free to use.
very cool. I love it. All right, Max, this is cool stuff. Congrats on how far you've taken this in a pretty short amount of time, and on raising capital. Any last like words of advice or something I always ask? Anything you would tell your younger self if you know, rewound the clock a little bit?
A lot. But maybe the one that I'd go with is that um, I think just spending time, like it's really hard to just wait until you have like the right idea before you jump ahead and do a startup. If I were to do it again, I probably would have just I would tell myself to be more comfortable starting a startup without even having an idea and just like spending some time in the ideation phase. I think like spending time on the discovery and ideation is is very valuable, and I think like you're gonna have to do it anyway. Most original startup ideas like they didn't start as what they ended up doing. So I don't think the original idea matters that much, but just find something that you're passionate about and that is interesting to work on.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think. I like that. Cool. Very good. Pangram.com. Max, thank you very much. Good luck. And maybe we'll catch you after your next round or see how the business is evolving at that point. So cool.
Cool. Thanks so much, Nathan.
Thank you. Over now.